Farm Week is a production of the Mississippi State University Extension Service.
Today on Farm Week, President Obama's proposed budget cuts billions and direct payments from agriculture.
Growing other crops like microgreens were on the agenda at the recent MSU Greenhouse Tomato Short Course.
In southern gardening, the Supertunia is beautiful and it's also well adapted to our tough southern climate.
In the markets, the government says the Brazilian corn crop is larger than expected, as some analysts project growing demand for beef.
In the feature segment, Pride of the Pond of Tunica, Mississippi, owner Bill Battle says the flavor of its fish remains the business's #1 goal and its greatest asset.
That's what's going to determine whether we stay in business or not is our quality and our service, and that's what we want to compete on. On flavor catfish that's treated properly is by far better than any fish I've ever eaten.
Good day, everyone. I'm Leighton Spann.
And I'm Artis Ford. Welcome to Farm Week.
President Obama has released his budget proposal, and it contains less money for agriculture, a lot less.
Latent direct payments to farmers could be eliminated if the Obama administration's budget is adopted. The budget released Wednesday also targeted crop insurance subsidies. President Obama says income support payments are not justified with the all-time high values for crop and livestock production. The administration says net farm income is projected to rise 14% this year to more than $128 billion, the highest inflation-adjusted amount in 40 years. DTN reports the administration's ag budget would cut almost $38 billion in farm subsidies during the next 10 years. Direct subsidy payments would be eliminated, a proposal that was made in the U.S. Senate last year by Ag Committee Chairman Debbie Stabenow. The Obama administration also proposes cutting subsidies to the crop insurance program. The U.S. Senate took the opposite position. It proposed increasing spending on crop insurance by more than $2.5 billion since other support programs were being taken away.
For anyone in the greenhouse tomato industry, particularly new or potential growers, the Greenhouse Tomato Short Course is the place to go for information. Each year, Mississippi State University Extension Service specialists and researchers educate participants about all aspects of greenhouse tomato production. This year, the short course covered some allied crops producers might consider growing, such as microgreens. Farm Week's Amy Taylor reports.
With the fresh, gourmet flavor of greenhouse tomatoes, this crop is becoming increasingly popular among growers, particularly those who sell to restaurants. Mississippi State University Extension Service vegetable specialist Dr. Rick Snyder says growers at the Greenhouse Tomato Short Course learned about startup costs, irrigation, marketing, and many other topics.
Growers can learn a lot of the money-saving techniques and yield maximizing techniques that they need to have a successful business. We'll cover quite thoroughly disease prevention, disease identification and management, as well as the pest management and prevention, and even the nutritional disorders. You might not think of nutrition as a pest or disease, but some of the nutritional defects and physiological disorders can resemble insect and disease damage in many cases.
Additionally, Dr. Snyder says microgreens were discussed as alternative crops to add variety in the greenhouse. Steve Froelich of Graston, Minnesota, explains why he's attended the short course for the past 20 years.
It's always interesting talking to other people and finding out their approach to doing things, and there's a lot of different ways to grow a crop. I think we live in very interesting times right now, and certainly with so much of our food coming from other parts of the countryside and the concern about food safety and health of foods. This is a great industry to be in. It's an industry that needs to grow in the United States, and it certainly is a much better alternative to what we might have available to us through our conventional grocery stores that are important from Mexico and virtually everywhere else in the world.
Since 1996, greenhouse tomato acreage in the U.S. has increased by 40%, now at about 1,000 acres. From Raymond, Mississippi, I'm Amy Taylor reporting.
If you're interested in greenhouse tomato production and the annual short course, we'll have the contact information on our Farm Week website and Facebook page next week.
Visiting the garden center can be confusing with so many great-looking, colorful plants and flowers. Well, in this week's Southern Gardening segment, Extension horticulturist Dr. Gary Bachman shows us why Supertunias are his choice for color and garden performance.
There are many excellent petunias on the market, so how do you decide? Let me share some simple advice. You can't go wrong choosing Supertunias. Supertunias have been a good performer in Mississippi for the past few years. In fact, Vista Bubblegum was selected as a Mississippi Medallion winner in 2012 with its clear, bright pink flowers. Some of the other colors are just as stunning. Vista Silverberry has silvery white flowers that have delicate magenta veins. Raspberry Blast is a bicolor with pink flowers that are edged in deep cerise violet. One of the more interesting selections is Priscilla with semi-double lavender flowers with purple veins. Supertunias are a great choice grown in containers and hanging baskets. With a mature spread of up to 24 or more inches, Supertunias will really fill a container or basket. When planted together, the different colors of Supertunia make attractive hanging baskets. Supertunias also work well in combination containers. Salmon-colored Bermuda Beach Supertunia, variegated ivy, and light green Sweet Caroline sweet potato vine make a dynamic combination. With their abundant flowering, Supertunias have been bred and selected to be self-cleaning. This means no deadheading and no sticky hands. Supertunias are heavy feeders and respond well to weekly treatments with water-soluble fertilizers. And be sure to provide regular watering, as Supertunias do not like to dry out. Supertunias should be grown in the full sun for 5 to 6 hours each day to reach their full flowering potential. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman for Southern Gardening.
Layden, Gary says if you give your Supertunia full sun, water, and good fertilizer, it will reward you until frost. Well, in the feature segment today, prior to the pond of Tunica, Mississippi, this catfish processor focuses on one goal: flavor, flavor, flavor. Maybe that's 3 goals.
It's a good goal.
But it's a goal they definitely fulfill. Time now for the markets with Layden, and we've rolled around to the April supply-demand reports now.
That's right, Artist. Wednesday was the big report day and will be the kickoff for this segment. In the markets this week, U.S. corn ending stocks are increased from March. Cotton stocks are unchanged from a month ago. And there's optimism in some quarters that meat demand will pick up. We begin with some analysis of that April 10th crop and supply demand report from the USDA. U.S. corn ending stocks were bumped up by 125 million bushels, while soybeans were basically unchanged from March. For the bigger picture on what these numbers mean for the market, I talked with Extension Ag economist Brian Williams Thursday. Brian, how did the USDA explain this change in corn stocks from the March report?
Well, in the March report, we were expecting kind of some big changes in the world ag supply and demand report, but it wasn't as big as expected. We had our ending stocks were up about 135 million bushels. Most of that was because of a reduction in our feed and residual use.
What has been the corn market's reaction so far in, what, about 24 hours now since those numbers came in?
Initially, there was a big reaction, but it kind of cooled off fairly quickly. And yesterday, the corn finished up 4 cents. And at my last check on Thursday here around midday, it was up again 4 cents today.
So settled back after an initial burst of volatility, I guess we could say.
Yeah.
Longer term, do you think there'll be any big impact of these numbers? Are we kind of settled back to where you think we may be for a while?
Well, looking at the report, our stocks to use ratio went up a little bit from last month to about 6.8%, which would be bullish for the market. It shows that there's still some tight supply or tight supplies in the market, but we're also kind of looking into the planting here in Mississippi. It's underway, as well as the rest of the South, and there's kind of some delays up in the Midwest with snowstorms and cooler than normal temperatures. So that's something we really need to watch.
Right. Well, let's talk about soybeans a minute or so here. Now, as far as soybeans are still, I assume, in a very tight situation, and this report kind of confirmed that?
They are as well. The report, there was really no surprises with the soybeans. The ending stocks were unchanged. We saw a little bit of movement around with the crush and exports both being revised up a little bit, but that was offset by the decrease in the residual use in soybeans.
Did prices change a whole lot as far as in the aftermath of the numbers?
They didn't. They closed down 2 cents yesterday. I think a lot of that was more of a reaction to an increase in world supply rather than domestic.
For cotton, the story in those April 10th numbers, as we said at the top, was no change in ending stocks. Early Wednesday, before the report, futures posted triple-digit gains after some 4 consecutive days of closing losses. Now, most everyone, it seems, was anticipating USDA would trim cotton acres back a month ago, and most everyone knows old and new crop prices usually drop in the spring. Now, despite the fact it's going against history, analyst Darren Newsom is not quite ready to say it's impossible for cotton to still move higher.
We have to see, I think, more from both sides of the market. We have to see the spreads really start to react. We have to see the commercial traders saying, look, we're going to have a tight supply and demand situation further off in the 13-14 marketing year. Maybe we saw the early signs of it here late this week. It's going to have to try to build, but it's going to be going against history because this is the normal time of year when cotton, both old crop and new crop, tends to come down. So it's got some problems, but I think this report might have been the trigger to kind of help pull it higher.
Our trivia quiz this week deals with peanuts. What is the most commonly grown peanut variety in the United States? The answer is one of the following: runner peanuts, Spanish peanuts, Valencia peanuts, or Virginia peanuts. You'll find out the correct one before the new feature story that's coming up.
We're going to pause for a short break on Farm Week. Coming up, we'll look at the calendar in the second part of the markets. Leighton Span reports feeder cattle prices are making a comeback and U.S. beef export values are higher. In the feature segment today, a catfish farmer and processor who believes that its reputation is only as good as the flavor of its fish. Certified on flavor is the slogan of Pride of the Pond of Tunica, Mississippi.
Mississippi 4-H celebrates a rich history of youth development through creative hands-on experiences. Programs emphasize leadership, technology, science, and agriculture.
But it's a lot more than that. .4-H, making the best better.
Before we get back to the markets, let's look at the Farm Week calendar. The last Beef Cattle Boot Camp takes place next Friday. The location is Mississippi State University's Brown Loam Branch Experiment Station at 7 Springs Road in Raymond. You'll find out about hoof care, crossbreeding systems, forage, feed, and mineral nutrition. Register early and the fee is $35. At the door, $45. A cool season forage tour takes place Tuesday, April 30th. The location is the South Farm at Mississippi State University in Starkville. The hours are 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Small grains, annual and perennial clovers, alfalfa, tall fescue, and efficient nutrient management are on the agenda. The event is free, but they are serving supper, so you need to pre-register so they'll know how many to serve. Go to our Farm Week website at farmweek.msucares.com for information on these and other events. Now check out this week's Farm Week Snapshot.
We begin the livestock sector in poultry with the latest on that expanding bird flu crisis in China. 24 people have reportedly contracted what's officially known as H7N9. 7 deaths are now being reported. A variety of different news agencies report chicken is being pulled from menus, and calls to close live poultry markets in China are increasing. Schools in Shanghai have now been asked to stop offering chicken to students. Taiwan's China Airlines is allegedly beefing up sanitation and disinfection measures. Now, China's National Poultry Association says the bird flu outbreak is a devastating blow to the industry there. Moving now to the beef sector. Some analysts are very optimistic when it comes to the feeder cattle market. Some call the recent drop in value an elevator-style break that was a little too cheap too quick. Analyst Mark Gold is one of the many traders who believe cheaper corn could really be the catalyst for positive prices.
We've started to come back here now. I like the feeder cattle market. I think it looks okay in here. I don't see things have changed, and I think with the cheaper corn prices, cheaper meal prices, that meat market's going to pick up. I like the demand for meat, not only on the beef side, but on the pork side as well. People want to say that what's happening in China with this potential bird flu is going to affect it. To me, the Chinese are going to still eat, and can we see a pickup of exports? There's still the Payleen question, but I believe that demand's going to be there on both the beef and the pork.
Some numbers compiled by the U.S. Meat Export Federation reflecting activity back in February are positive for the cattle sector. U.S. beef exports in the second month of this year managed a 5% increase in value compared to a year ago, despite a slight decline in volume. Now, that drop in volume is being attributed to a combination of trade barriers and a sluggish economy in some foreign markets. Well, before our new feature story, let's stop by the trivia board for this week's answer. And the answer that is correct is A. The runner variety accounts for 80% of the U.S. peanut acreage. It's what most commonly used to make peanut butter.
In the farm-raised catfish industry, taste is everything. Processors begin taste testing catfish months before they're harvested. The whole industry gets a black eye when off-flavor catfish are sold to the public, regardless of where they're grown. One Northwest Mississippi catfish farmer and processor is so concerned about taste, it's the company's sole focus. Certified on flavor is the company's slogan of Pride of the Pond of Tunica. Owner Bill Battle says the focus on flavor has kept it in business at a time when others have gone out.
That's what's going to determine whether we stay in business or not is our quality and our service, and that's what we want to compete on. On-flavor catfish that's treated properly is by far better than any fish I've ever eaten.
Flavor and taste are practically obsessions for owner Bill Battle and Pride of the Pond, a Tunica, Mississippi catfish processor. Pride of the Pond is the processing and sales division of Battle Farms. Battle's father and mother, Paul and Norma, began catfish farming in 1969.
We started raising fish, and the live haulers would take fish to pay lakes up north. And we were about 100 miles closer than any other fish that they could get in Mississippi. So we had a little edge on the market, and that market grew.
Looking for an edge turned out to be a way of business for the Battles. There was no live haul market during the winter, so in 1982, Bill's father decided to add value to his fish by building a processing plant with the Owen family and Bill Giddon. Around 2008, Battle Farms bought out their partners and became the sole owner. At this time, Battle renovated the Pride of the Pond plant. Battle and his staff believe that modernization has improved further the flavor and quality of their catfish. The catfish are transported in chilled water and processed in a plant kept at 43 degrees. In an hour after harvest, the catfish are either fresh packed on ice or frozen, ready for the customer.
Our flavor profile is one of the best in the industry. It's the way we process our product. It's cold from swimming fish. It's chilled to when it's frozen or ice packed. You know, when you can do that within an hour, your product is fresh. You have a longer shelf life on the fresh and the frozen.
The profit margins are slim in catfish processing, so efficiency is vital. Even though it processes 55,000 pounds of catfish per day, Battle says Pride of the Pond is probably the smallest modern plant in the industry. Computer automated scales weigh the product at several points in the process, as well as sort the catfish fillets according to weight. Battle admits much of his plant's redesign came from ideas he saw in the poultry processing industry.
The chicken people seem to be a little more advanced than the catfish people as far as product flow and how to not double handle material. And so we took their advice and went through several plans before we decided on a final plan, and we're real happy with what we got.
There's an electronic scoreboard on the wall that ranks the employees trimming the catfish fillets. It's updated constantly by the computer weighing system. Trimmers who perform well get a bonus.
That's another thing that came from the chicken industry. They have to do a lot of trimming of chickens, and they said that if you put a little bit of competitive edge between your trimmers, it kind of breaks the boredom of repetitive work and gives them an incentive to do more. Everybody wants to be the #1 trimmer.
The effort to deliver on-flavor catfish extends to the Battle Farms catfish operation. 98% of Pride of the Pond's catfish comes from Battle's own 2,700 acres of ponds, allowing him once again more control over fish quality. Off-flavor catfish may taste or smell musty or muddy. It is usually caused by certain types of blue-green algae. The fish are safe to eat, just undesirable.
If it hadn't been testing good or slightly off, we'll make sure that once it hits that good level, that it's maintained for several weeks before we do bring it in.
Not only that, they can hold fish that they know are on flavor during periods of the year when a lot of the fish, maybe as high as 80% of the fish that are out there, are off flavor. So they can kind of sock away a few fish there they know are good quality. So when things get lean out there, they've got a good solid product they can go and pull from their own farm.
We're going to be 100% on flavor 100% of the time.
Mississippi has always had more than half of all the farm-raised catfish water acres in the United States, but acres peaked in Mississippi 12 years ago at almost 113,000. In early 2013, it had dropped by more than half to just under 49,000 acres. Most of this decline has occurred since the Great Recession started in late 2007. Several factors have combined to hammer U.S. catfish producers. U.S. catfish producers overproduced and pond acres plummeted. This caused a shortage and record-high pond bank prices in 2011. These were met with record-high feed prices due to high grain and soybean prices. Some areas saw feed increase to $562 per ton in 2012.
Back when feed was even at $200 a ton, even back then it was estimated that feed was as much as probably 60% of our annual operating costs. Now with the cost of feeds, that number is probably up as high as 80 to 90% of our annual operating costs.
The increase in pond bank prices has prompted overseas producers of catfish-like species to flood the U.S. market. Imports of catfish account for 78% of all catfish fillets sold in the United States. Imports are also the cheapest catfish, pulling down the price of U.S.-grown stock.
And the price of live fish followed that shortage and went up 50% during that time period. Well, at the same time, the Vietnamese and the other imported products that come over here at considerably less selling price just found a perfect storm for them to come into and get into a market that was short on fish in supply and at record price levels.
The U.S. catfish industry points out foreign-produced catfish are often grown using drugs and chemicals that are banned in the United States. The catfish industry says in 2012, 45 shipments of foreign catfish were not allowed entry into the U.S. Unfortunately, only a small percentage of foreign-grown seafood is inspected each year.
We don't feel like any of the imported fish meets our quality standard. We feel like we've got a far superior product to any foreign product that wants to compare with us, and we'll compare any day, any time.
Despite the situation facing the U.S. catfish industry, Battle feels Pride of the Pond's focus on flavor, efficiency, and customer service will help it meet the challenges of the future.
We do everything that we can do to deliver the best product that we possibly can to the cook. And once it gets to the cook's hands, not much I can do.
And you can watch this story on Pride of the Pond again on our Farm Week website, Facebook page, or YouTube. The website address is farmweek.msucares.com. We'll also have links and contact information for you so you can get in touch with Pride of the Pond. It has a Facebook page and a web page. Private individuals can buy from the plant if you wish. And Leighton, one thing about it, I'm always amazed, and Mr. Battle said it too, people come in and they say it takes all this to put fish in a box. And so I'm kind of like, you know, whatever we pay for it, is that too much? I just know that you didn't have to worry about growing it. You didn't have to worry about doing all that processing. All you had to do was go buy it.
And as he said, it is a small facility, but very efficient in all ways.
Very efficient, very modern. We appreciate them having us out. Well, we are at the end of Farm Week for this week. On our next show, the Easter season is past, but the memories of those king cakes are still with us.
Paul's Pastry Shop of Picayune, Mississippi is one of the best-known king cake bakers. King cakes aren't limited to Easter anymore. You can order them online from Paul's any time of the year.
In Southern Gardening's Donald geraniums, they have unusual leaves as well as brilliantly colored flowers. For the rest of the Farm Week crew, I'm Artist Ford.
And I'm Leighton Spann. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.